It is 2 o'clock and we will open up our meeting. This is the first meeting of the State Road Safety Task Force in Putnam County. If I could remind you all to please silent your phones so that we don't have any interruption. I'll do that myself. Just real quick, we were going to have this meeting in a conference room, and we moved it to this room for two reasons. We didn't know what to expect for public people, for people coming in, because we had a lot of people reaching out and saying that they wanted to show up and speak. And then also because we wanted to make sure that it was videoed. So remember that as you're speaking, that everything's going to be videoed and it can be reviewed at a later time. So at this time we call the meeting to order, and I'm going to give an opening statement, but I'd like to address you from the podium. Thank you all for being here today. I like to look at people when I'm speaking, so I know I can't do that during the whole meeting, but I wanted to welcome you to the first State Road Safety Task Force meeting in Putnam County. Thank you for your willingness to serve the Putnam County community. When I was thinking about our mission, I was reminded of the poem by Robert Frost, "The Road Not Taken," and I thought it was very fitting for this task force. I'm sure you have all heard this poem, so I will only read the last line. "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." While the roads that we are discussing today and in the future are traveled by many in our community, for the first time we as Putnam County officials and citizens are taking a stand to work collectively together to embark on a journey on what I will call the road less traveled. This road will be difficult, as we will have serious and sometimes perhaps emotional discussions. We will hear from our community about their transportation safety concerns, and it will take your time, dedication, empathy, and talent to create both reasonable and obtainable recommendations to the state and county. However, I am very positive that your willingness to serve on Putnam County's first State Road Safety Task Force will have made all the difference. I look forward to the future of our community and serving with each of you. So please, if you will, join me in giving our volunteers a round of applause. With that, Mr. Suggs, I'll have you go over the Florida Sunshine Law.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the committee was put together and appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, it was noticed by our county attorney that we all of us that are serving on the committee fall under the sunshine. So what I handed out earlier was just a packet that we give to our committee members. The majority of the information contained in the packet will not apply to each of you folks, but the sunshine does on page 6. So if I could, I'd just like to ask you to kind of look at that, read over that. When we leave here today, the one thing that needs to be stressed is that under the sunshine, no two committee members can talk about anything as far as business of this committee outside of these publicly advertised meetings. If you have any questions or you need to get some information, you're welcome to reach out to any one of our staff members and they can help you. But anyone that sits on this committee, you need to be mindful of that and just make sure that you don't reach out to those folks directly to have any conversations directly related to the business at hand. That's really the main focus of it, and I know you won't do that, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Mr. Grimes, Ms. Young, as far as Deputy County Administrators, and they can help you through that.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Suggs? All right, thank you. I wanted to talk a few minutes about the creation of this safety committee. The idea of having a State Road Safety Task Force came out of the BOCC meeting on March 11th, where Chair Phil Leary for the Putnam County School District spoke, along with Miss Marlene Ryan, who is an at-large member. Due to she's the mother of Jessica Daughtry, who lost her life on Highway 100 on February 25th, 2025. And we are grateful for Miss Ryan's involvement in wanting to see improvements made in Putnam County regarding our roads, particularly the State Road 100. And at that meeting, we discussed which public agencies should be representative, along with the at-large Ms. Ryan, and then each board member then selected a citizen representative that was appointed at the Board of County Commissions on April 8th, 2025 meeting. And just for housekeeping purposes, if you want to speak, there's a button right here. You'll see it like this. You'll push it and let me know that you want to speak. And then also your mic, it is very live. So if you say something, you want to turn it off when you're not speaking. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so the document that you have in front of you is actually a breakdown of enforcement action between County Road 309 and County Road 315 on State Road 100 for a time period of 120 days between February 1st and current date. And if you'll draw your attention to this first page, I'll go over this with you and kind of break it down for you so you have a little better understanding of what this looks like. So if we go over to the far top right, and you'll see that line out to a W with a number out by it, that is actually indicative of the number of verbal warnings that we've issued at 54. So if you want to make some notes, feel free to. The P directly underneath that, that just indicates miscellaneous police services. That could have been a disabled vehicle or something like that. The O down below that is actually criminal citations that were issued. That could range from driving while license suspended or revoked, which is probably what the majority of those are, to some other criminal infraction that was witnessed by deputy sheriffs. And then if you come on down to the bottom where you see the N and the number 125 by it, that is actually written warnings that were issued. And if we come on around clockwise up to the M in the blue section there, that 95 represents the number of traffic citations issued in that 120-day period. And just above that, the I, where you see 8, that's actually the number of report calls that were generated from some type of traffic stop. And that could range from anything to a traffic crash, or it could potentially be a drug case, or likely associated with a number of these criminal citations that were issued that we talked about just a few moments ago. So that totals 288 traffic stops in that time period that the Sheriff's Office has conducted. I've reached out to Captain Stevens with the Highway Patrol as well, and he's actually compiling some data for us that we'll have available at the next meeting that will highlight FHP's enforcement operations as well. And then if you flip over to the next page, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's, again, the same stops that we were referencing on page 1, but this actually breaks it down by day of the week. We've got some additional data that we'll present at the next meeting that will have it, that will drill down a little further and look by time of day and the type of enforcement action that was taken. But this is what we were able to kind of throw together on short notice. And then flipping over to the very last page, this is a little bit of a work in progress. Somewhat self-explanatory, but this is done by geographic area, and you'll see over on the bottom right where it says Palatka, Florida, 188. I'll highlight that number because, Madam Chair, if you recall at our very first organizational meeting, we'd already identified that the section of State Road 100 between Barden Road and Roberts Lane was by far the most dangerous, and we'd had the most fatalities there, totaling, I believe, 13 with Jessica's death over a 10 to 12 year period. So that section there indicates the number of enforcement actions that were taken by sheriff's deputies in that particular section of road, from Barden Road west all the way to Roberts Lane. These other areas, we'll have some better data and hopefully a map that we'll be able to generate for the next meeting. But that greater Palatka area that's highlighted in green there is representative of that particular area of concern.
Very good. Are there any questions for the sheriff from the board, from committee members? Well, I know we certainly appreciate the activity that's gone on out there. You guys even posted and said, hey, we're going to be out here, and they still kept coming, didn't they?
Unfortunately, they didn't heed those warnings, and they're having to pay the price for it now.
Right, right. Lastly, as far as what else have we been able to do, we have certainly caught the attention of the media. The formation in this meeting has been on 4 different news channels, along with several articles in our local newspaper, the Palatka Daily News. And so we appreciate the media helping us bring awareness regarding our public road and safety concerns. I think if we're already off to a good start with what we have seen so far between traffic infractions along with public awareness. Let's see. With that, we will go into introduction of committee members, and we'll start with Mr. County Administrator Suggs, and then we'll just come along the dais.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. I'm Terry Suggs. I'm the Putnam County Administrator. As far as the background, I've been doing public service now for over 30 years. The last 4 years have been in the city county management position. So, you know, we bring a lot to the table as far as things that we deal with every day. Public safety is one of our main focuses. We work, as you know, we got the Putnam County Fire Rescue, and so we work very closely not only with them but also with the Sheriff's Office. And in my previous role as city manager, I have both the city police department as well as fire rescue under my umbrella as well. So, you know, we're ready and willing to do whatever it takes to provide a service to our citizens that provides safety on all of our county highways. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Killebrew.
I'm Ed Killebrew. I'm a resident of Putnam County. Been here all my life. 6th generation Putnam Countyan. My area of expertise is I'm just a concerned citizen. I want to help, you know, things get better in our county. We travel that road every day. My wife and I do. My grandson travels that road to QI every day. You know, and just whatever we can do to 100.
That's right.
That's what I want to do.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan? Yes, ma'am. It's okay. If you want us to come back to you?
No.
Okay.
I'm good. Okay. I'm Marlene Ryan. The reason I'm here is because my daughter Jessica suffered a fatal accident on Highway 100, and I feel like we really need to come together as a community to try to do something to help with the traffic, with all of the situations that occur there, the speeding, the passing. It's just terrible. And we live right there on Highway 100, right off of Springside. And every day, I won't say every day, but mostly at least 3 times a week, there's ambulances, fire engines, sheriff's cars flying down that road because of something that's happened. And I just pray and hope that with the help of the county, the commissioners, everyone involved, that we could do something together to help this community. Putnam County has been my home for 65 years, and I love it. And I know that people are compassionate and they are wanting to help, and our family appreciates it, and I know the families of the other victims of this road appreciates it, and our family thanks all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Gator Deloach, I'm humbled and honored to serve as Sheriff of Putnam County. Just a little bit of my background, I'll touch just briefly on a few highlights. I've got about 29 years total in public service. of which 24 and a half is in law enforcement. I began my career at the sheriff's office in early 2001, January to be specific. And in 2016, I was elected sheriff and assumed office January 3rd of 2017 and have been serving as sheriff since. We all have a very keen interest in the work this committee has undertaken and are committed to seeing it through. It's our hope that we can get some substantial cooperation with DOT. We have all the empirical data that we need to indicate that there is truly a problem here, and it's incumbent upon us to get that information into the right hands with Department of Transportation so that we paint a holistic picture of what's going on here and that they are fully informed about the dangers on this particular section of roadway that we're addressing here in this meeting today. It's also my hope that once we address some of these issues on State Road 100, this committee, rather than disbanding, will remain intact, and we can actually use this as a vehicle to address some of the other issues in the county, particularly on State Road 19 and 100 East as well.
Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate that. My name's Leota Wilkinson. I'm currently chair of the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners. I have been a county commissioner for 3 years. Before that, I served 6 years with State Representative Bobby Payne's office, and before that, I served 15 years at St. Johns River Water Management District as their land acquisition agent. So I've been in public service for a while. My husband and I also own a business in Putnam County, an automobile repair business, and I live out in Barden community, not far from Mr. Killebrew, and I have driven that road for, I don't even want to know how many years, but 49 probably. No, not that long, 40 something. Anyway, I can remember as far back as 1989, one of my classmates had died on that road. Her name was Tamara Vance. She had a head-on collision. So that area of the road, particularly, what we discovered during this process was that there was a particular area that was 4 times more dangerous than the rest of the road. Certainly caught my attention, but I can remember all the way back 30 years ago whenever there were accidents out there and fatalities were happening. So it's not something new. I think it's something that we as a community somewhat got, I hate to say it, but we got used to it. And then now we're realizing we can't get used to it. We've got to do something about it. And so I'm very passionate about this subject, and I appreciate everybody being here today. Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Phil Leary, I'm chairman of the Putnam County School Board, also a former county planning development director, both here in Putnam County and Clay County. I'm a nationally certified land use planner and have worked on transportation plans and traffic circulation elements in both counties. I started traveling that road, I think, when my dad retired from the Navy and my mom moved back here to her home county. My grandfather owned a farm right just west of Putnam Hall, and been traveling that road for 60 plus years. Hate to tell you that, but long time. I do think it's important that we, as a school district, working in conjunction with all the other agencies, focus on safety of our children, our teachers, our support staff, and our parents that are going back and forth and every day, morning and night, our buses in transportation. And that it's unfortunate that a tragedy had to be the offspring of this committee, but I think that now's the time, and we can do some great things. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Brent Coates. I've dedicated my entire life to traffic safety through law enforcement. Spent 28 years with the Highway Patrol, 10 and a half years as the local captain here with FHP, and then had continued on in the traffic safety realm in the transportation industry now with trucking companies, trucking carriers. The one thing that we have is we have faltered off in the community for what we have done and what we had back in the late 90s, early to mid 2000s. We had a solid community traffic safety team where we had a collaboration with all agencies, with the Sheriff's Office, with Palatka PD, Emergency Services, Road Department, FDOT, everybody, and we had a tremendous impact on traffic safety in Putnam County. So much so, the county was recognized on the state level with the Florida Police Chiefs Association. It's called the Chiefs Challenge. And then also, too, was recognized in the national level at the IACP, again, for the Chiefs Challenge as well. And that's through the efforts of the people in the community. Not one agency, not one person, and for whatever reason, that has faltered off. And we need to bring that back together, bring that attention back, and as was stated a minute ago, unfortunately, it takes a tragedy to get to spark the emotions and to get people, fired back up, but certainly we have done that, and certainly we can move forward and make it a much stronger, much safer community.
Thank you, Mr. Coates. Mr. Theobald, Principal Theobald. Is this mic on? Joe, could you please push your button on there? There you go. There you go.
I thought green was off. Okay, green is on. There we
Green is
go.
on.
My name is Joe Theobald. I'm the principal at QI Roberts. I've been in education for 25 years. I've been the principal out there for 6 years, and I was there 6 years before it became a junior senior high school. I've been driving that road since I could drive as well. I have really close friends that live in the Caraway area, and to me, the expertise I bring just is the passion that I have for our students' safety and for their family members' safety. To me, Highway 100 is a perfect representation of what this community, what our challenges are, because not only are we talking about people commuting to work in our community, outside of our community, but we're also talking about log trucks that are always going to be up and down that road. Trucks coming out of Grandin from the sand plant. These are just the challenges. I drive that road every day. My wife and my child drive that road every day, and so we need to make sure that it's safe for everyone to go up and down it. And I hope we also get an opportunity to talk about some other road safety concerns in some other areas that are certainly impacting our students and their families. But I am absolutely honored and humbled to be here myself. Thank you.
Thank you. You might have to just turn that mic over to Miss Edwards.
Sure. Hey, I'm
We're having to
Sandy.
share. We don't normally have this many people up here.
I'm Sandy Edwards. My husband and I retired East Blackton in 2019. My career was with transportation. I worked at a very large trucking company for 47 years, and in the last 20, I was an executive with some safety-related function. So I hope I can bring some information that might be helpful, or possibly call on some resources that might be able to help us with some ideas. My daughter was 30 seconds behind the accident. My husband died in a motorhome accident a year and a half ago that was pretty terrible. So for me, road safety is very important. Not only was it a big part of my life for the last 50 years, but it really has affected my family.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Chief.
Putnam County Fire Chief Richard Back. I've lived here my entire life in Putnam County, been in emergency services in one way or another, a volunteer or career for the last 36 years. My goal of raising a family here and always been a worry of my kids driving, and the goal of this committee, me serving on this committee, is just make Putnam County a safer place with my experience of what I've seen in these tragic accidents and what we can hopefully do to prevent them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And Miss Amore was not able to make it today. She actually lives in the Floor Home area, and she had a scheduled appointment. She had been in an accident on Highway 100, and she's on her 5th or 6th surgery from that accident. And so she had a specialist appointment and couldn't be here. But we wish her well, and she will be back at the next meeting. Hopefully we'll get it scheduled. But I just wanted to give you an update as to why Terry Miss Moore, she was District 5's appointed person, is not here. So today we can go, I'm not sure how we're going to handle this, but we can go down the dais and talk about the issues on 100 specifically. The goal today is to discuss 100, but we will also, I believe, I'd like to see in the future that we talk about other areas of concern. And I'm going to start a little bit with Chief, because I know you mentioned you've seen some accidents out there, some bad things, and like Mr. Grimes has said, if they got a call and they knew, if your people got a call and they knew it was on Highway 100, they knew it was going to be bad. And if you could just talk a little bit about your experience, and then you also had told me a story about how difficult it was on that road for some of your
Yes, ma'am.
responders.
I've been to several tragic accidents, but you're right. Anytime a page for our departments go out on Highway 100, we just expect the worst. No matter what the dispatch information is, in our mind, it's going to be a tragic accident on that road, whether single vehicle, multiple vehicles, just because of the layout of the road, in my opinion. The other difficult task for us is getting to the accident once traffic backs up. I voiced my concerns about how narrow the shoulders are, and even citizens being able to pull over to let us by. The one incident you're talking about, we had a wreck that involved one of the small bridges out there with an overturned sand truck. All my units came from what we call the west end of the county, Interlaken, Aquila, and Florhome. So we had to walk a quarter mile after we climbed over the sand to get our patients, because that's how far out the seam was spread. Not knowing that coming into it, we could have maybe diverted some trucks from a different direction, but we didn't have that information until we got there. So every accident out there is a challenge for us. It's also a safety concern for us. Even once we shut the roads down, there's always a distracted driver that's not paying attention. We have secondary auto accidents from the primary auto accident. So that's my big concern on any two-lane state highway.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That road and sections of it, it does have what seems to be a decent-looking shoulder. But if you go to pull off the side of the road, and I'm sure Sheriff can address this, you could get stuck. I think I've heard that there are safety concerns from some of our law enforcement officers saying that when they go to pull people over, that there might not be enough room where they could get stuck. There's other areas you've got room, but not consistently throughout. And one of the things we learned through our county research that we did was that the state has plenty of right-of-way along there. It's not that if the state chooses to go forward with 4-laning or making a passing lane or whatever they can do to widen it or to make bigger shoulders, there's plenty of area for them to do that. They wouldn't need to go by into acquisition. So that is a benefit for us, getting on their 5-year plan or 10-year work plan. I think is going to be our challenge and something that we're going to push for. With that, is there anybody else who would like to make comments or to have discussion regarding Highway 100? I really would like this to be just an open, collaborative meeting. I don't expect everybody to be particularly real formal. Miss Edwards, did you want to go?
And what do you do?
Yeah, well, there's a button, but
Hit
yeah.
that button. Hey, so what was the research? I mean, is there a compilation of that information that we all could look into?
Well, this was just this was just looking at what the state owned. So if
Okay.
you just pull up Highway 100 and you look at what the state actually owns, you'll see it's very wide. Our engineer said that there is very wide.
Were
So,
there other focuses of this research that might be good for us to know about, or?
yes, ma'am. Some of what our sheriff shared, and then we had just had some numbers on the amount of accidents and fatalities that were out there. But I don't have that in front of me right now to
Okay.
specifically talk about. But what we did discover was that area between Barden Road, 309.
Why you
D.
narrowed it down to
Yeah,
that
and Caraway. Well,
particular-
and it's not narrowed. What we're looking at the entire length from the county line to what I call Georgia Pacific Road or County Road 216. So that whole area right there is if you look at all the state roads coming into Palatka, that's one of the few that's not 4-laned. You got that one in Highway 19, and that's it. Everything else is 4-laned coming into Palatka.
Are there any numbers about how it compares to anywhere else? I mean, other
I don't know what you would
four-lane
compare
roads?
it to. Do you? I don't really.
That section of road. Yeah. That section of road has some unique features. I think you could roughly compare it to that same section of East State Road 100 that runs from San Mateo through to Bunnell, just for a rough baseline comparison, that is perhaps not equally as deadly, but we've had a number of fatalities on 100 East as well. And I think a large number of factors that contribute to those fatalities, notwithstand certainly not the least of which is the rural nature of both of those roads. But there's a number of different factors that I think play a substantial role into some of these more severe injuries that result in fatalities.
And then you have major intersections at 315 and 100. That's always been brought up. The community has brought that up several times. When I worked at State Representatives Bobby Payne's office, there was a petition going on, and they wanted to put a red light there. And the conversation we had at that time with FDOT said it's not safe to put a red light there because you have those sand trucks coming up at the top of the hill, and when they're coming over the hill, there's not enough room for them. I don't know if you've been out there, but there's not enough room to really come to a good stop if that traffic was backed up. They have mentioned a roundabout there. I don't think that that's a viable solution either. I don't know. There is caution lights there, and they have put some additional, they've got some flashing lights and some additional signage they've already done, but they are looking at that intersection. State Road 26 and 100 is always a concern. There are plenty of data on accidents in at that intersection as well. So, those are the things that we're asking DOT to specifically look at on 100 besides the section that we've spoken about already. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, are there any improvements that we could make, are there any improvements that we could make as a community now? Even in that stretch, because I'm very familiar with that stretch. That's also the stretch where you're gonna get stuck if you pull off to the side of the road. That goes through a real swampy area.
And it's passing it right there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a passing area. It's extremely straight, but there's a couple of hills, and so, yeah, it's a dangerous spot. Is there any way we can widen the shoulders or maintain or anything like that?
And that's the one thing we got to remember is we're an advisory board, so we'll have to go back and advise and give our recommendations to DOT for any changes we want to the road. They are currently in their plan of resurfacing, their design for resurfacing it. I would actually hope that they pump the brakes on that a little bit, and instead of just going and resurfacing it, that they give us an opportunity to give them some feedback and say, hey, here's some areas, which we've already have, but some specific things. Like one of the things, Miss McLean reached out to me, Betty McLean, on Roberts Lane, and she said, there's no speed limit sign between Barden and Caraway. I said, what? There's got to be. Stopped an officer yesterday and asked him. He said, no, ma'am,
There's
you're
not.
right. There's not a speed limit sign between Barden Road and Caraway. And the worst, there's not even a speed limit sign there. Now, I don't know where it went or if it was ever one there. I don't know. But that's an easy thing. That's one of those easy things. I think we'll have a mixture of some easy and short-term recommendations, and I think we'll have some long-terms, such as a passing lane, four-laning, that kind of stuff. And this is all new to me too, y'all. So I'm learning as we're going, but I believe we all have the heart and want to do the right thing. And but it is an advisory board, and so we'll have to go back with FDOT and give them a list of what we're looking to do. Mr. Coates, did you have something?
Yeah, Madam Chair, could we get, Sheriff, you may be able to tell us that the FHP captain's going to get it for us, but can we get the information on the fatalities that we're talking about that have occurred, not recent, but over the time period?
Yeah.
What type of fatalities were they? Were they lane departure? Were they single vehicle? Were they multiple vehicle? And break all of that down so that we can develop a plan. Is it, and there's a thing, and I've actually got a handout, there's a thing, it's called the 3 E's for traffic safety. It's enforcement, engineering, and education. And then use that as a template on these fatalities, on these crashes, which of those E's does it fall under? Does it fall under enforcement? Does it fall under engineering? Do we have a bad engineering, a bad road like shoulders? or is it education? We need to educate the public or the community, better than, than what we've done. We need to step that up maybe a little bit as a whole, and look at those so that we can drill down on those crashes. What's the causation? What's the root cause? So that once we find the root cause, then we have a direction to go. We may find that they're all scattered, but we
Yeah.
also may find that they're not. That there's a specific common denominator in all of those.
Right.
So that we can again dig a little bit deeper with that. And I've got, if you don't mind, I've got some handouts.
That's
Actually talks
exactly-
about the
no.
3 E's.
Yeah, you can
And I'm
pass
not
it
going to go over all of it, but it also for everybody is, it's just from the Florida Highway, Florida Highway Safety. It has all the crashes for Putnam County from 21 to 23. 24 is not available yet, and I'm not going to go over all of them. I'll just pass it out for everybody's information, but
Thank you.
that way everybody has it.
Yeah, this is, I mean, we're learning as we're going, but at the same time, I think we're going to have some good recommendations. One of the, in our letter that we sent up to Tallahassee, we said 4 lanes or the creation of passing lanes and center line barriers. I spoke with a couple deputies. They didn't think having barriers in the center, and I think, Gator, if you'll address that, what are your thoughts on those recommendations?
I'm somewhat hesitant to opine on that without having all the data in front
Okay,
of us
fair enough.
to be able to really dig down a little deeper into,
Yeah.
as Brent was saying just a few moments ago, what the primary cause of these accidents was, whether it's a lane departure or whatever the case may be. So I think that it's important for us to get that data, and that's something that Captain Stevens has agreed to supply
Okay.
us with as well. So once we have that, I think we'll have a better idea on where we really need to drill down and focus our efforts. And this is strictly anecdotal, just from my own observations. As Brent was talking about earlier, the 3 E's, which I'm familiar with as well. I think one of the biggest issues that we see here is an engineering flaw, or perhaps a series of them that probably was never contemplated when that road was engineered to accommodate the volume of traffic that it does now, as the traffic on that road has grown exponentially over the last several years. There is a significant issue with enforcement activity on State Road 100 West, in particular that section from Barden Road to Roberts Lane that we're really kind of laser focused on at the moment with this committee. There's really no improved shoulder to speak of. And I can tell you from personal experience, I'm not too proud to say that I actually got stuck out there a couple of weeks ago on a traffic stop as I was trying to turn around. So that makes enforcement very difficult. But just from a ingress and egress point for traffic as they're transiting that particular section of roadway, it creates an additional hazard as well, because if there's oncoming traffic or someone's passing and they get too close, there's no egress to get off of the roadway and onto an improved shoulder, which creates a hazard rather than mitigate one.
Right.
So I think those are all things that we need to take a good hard look at.
One of the things I think I would like to see, I know I would like to see, is a turning lane going eastbound into Barden Road. We have one going westbound, but we don't have one going eastbound. And because what happens is you pull up to turn into Barden Road and you're like hoping you don't get hit.
Sure.
And sometimes people take the grassy lane to go around you, but it's dangerous. And so I would like us to recommend that. Of course, after we get the data, that would be one of my recommendations on that. Thank you. That's what I need. Thank you, Mr. Killebrew.
I just wanted to commend the sheriff on the enforcement acts that's happening out there, along with the highway patrol. The chief, you could probably speak to this too, but it seems as if the accidents have kind of gone down. There's not as many lights and ambulances and stuff like that running, and what you call, I guess, a wolf pack with the highway patrol. I was under the understanding that had been put out there, And, you know, I just, if y'all could speak to that, just, you know, I mean, because we're trying to start somewhere. And I know you know this, but the enforcement part of it, I think I just wanted to draw attention to that it's been very helpful.
Sure. So, you know, enforcement is certainly a key component as well as education. So, you know, we've kind of taken a two-prong approach with enforcement and education coupled together along with the highway patrol. Anyone who has traversed that road over the last couple of months has seen a significant increase in not only presence but enforcement. You know, one of the frustrating things for us, and Mr. Coates can attest to this as well, the moment you get some blue lights out there or a marked patrol car, everyone is on their best behavior for at least the next 30 to 45 minutes until they think the coast is clear. So we've had to revert to some very creative tactics. And it's not about catching people in that aha moment. It's more about bringing their attention to it to increase their awareness about what they're doing. Frankly, I think that cell phones are one of the greatest and perhaps most detrimental inventions to modern civilization, particularly with regard to traffic safety and the impacts that personal devices have on our safety as we drive on our roadways in Florida. You know, it's difficult, if not impossible, to observe someone on a cell phone or a device whenever you're traveling at 60 miles an hour going the opposite direction. But there are instances where, you know, we've been able to catch someone in the act, so to speak, whether they're texting and driving or perusing their Facebook news feed as they travel or commute to work in the mornings and the afternoons, which is a travesty in my opinion. I personally would be in favor of installing technology in vehicles that precludes you from using those particular types of services while you're driving. I think it's one thing, it's bad enough to be distracted by a phone call, even if it's in hands-free mode. But I certainly understand the necessity of that in today's climate with everything moving at such a fast pace of life.
Yeah. Mr. Leary?
Madam Chairman, thank you. So from the standpoint of, if you look at this road in comparison to some other roads in northeast Florida, I know US 17 was 4-lane years ago. When I was commuting up there, I was part of the group that approved the development of regional impact on Fleming Island for the 2 DRIs there and the 6-laning of that. But even now, with that road 6-laned and 8-laned in some places, the traffic count's so high, you know, that there are still a number of accidents. But if you break it down into, you know, 3 different categories, and these are, you know, similar to what Major Coates handed out, but, you know, awareness, and, you know, our drivers in that road have not seen enforcement from the Highway Patrol since the Highway Patrol station was moved or eliminated in Putnam County. And I blame some of that a lot of it on the legislature and them not providing the funding to hire enough highway patrolmen to really do the enforcement and the safety you know, work on our highways in Putnam County, and then of course what they're paying them, they all get paid more if they work in counties that have interstate highways. And then, you know, the paradigm that people have in driving, and you know, one of the things when we were talking with DOT a few weeks back, you know, we can put larger signs up. You can have larger speed limit signs, and you can do some, you know, they don't have to be as big as they are on the interstate, but you can certainly make them bigger than what they are and have more of them. They agreed that, you know, some of that area needed to be restriped, and so those fall under both engineering under these 3 categories that on this paper that Mr. Coates handed out. Then, you know, cameras in school zones. the district board has not really had just minimal conversation on that. We're waiting to hear back from some of our staff that were doing research on it, but I'm not overly enthusiastic about cameras and generally red light cameras and that type of thing. But in school zones, I think it's a different situation. And on state highways where you have the speed and the traffic counts, I think it's something that this committee should look at and maybe make a recommendation on. And then, just the key is through enforcement and communication and social media, people now know that when you're driving that road, you better pay attention. When I was commuting, I commuted to Tallahassee back and forth for 25 years. And I can tell you that from Palatka to Lake City, I was very aware of, the speed limit and the enforcement from the Highway Patrol during, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and, up until probably the last 10 years. So we need to reverse that whole driving paradigm as it pertains to, their being aware that if you're not driving and meeting the laws that are posted, the speed limits and, other traffic signals and things, that you're going to face consequences and they're going to be serious. So, but I haven't talked with Mr. Theobald about the cameras, but I have had several people call me and say that they'd like to see larger flashing signs flashing at the school zone, that they're smaller. I thought they were the standard size, but, what can it hurt to put bigger flashing signs up there? The only people that's going to bother, or the only thing that's going to bother, the bears crossing the highway. But it may help in slowing people down going through that school zone. The same thing with the other school zones that we have, 17 in Crescent City and State Road 20 with Kelly Smith Elementary, and the new elementary school coming online on Horseman's Club Road, and then us, starting construction probably by the end of the year on the replacement school at Kelly Smith.
So I have a couple questions. The city of Palatka took this up, I believe?
They did. They have, or
For
in
the schools
process.
that are in the city?
Correct.
And what's been the result of that?
I haven't heard.
Okay.
I also think that, this is specifically related to school buses and our students and the drivers, is that, I personally and I'm not speaking for the board, but am in favor of cameras on the school buses that are now, if you run around a school bus, I think that currently under the state legislation that it's a $200 fine. And I know that there's concerns with some of the implementation and the process with that and the appeals and who's driving and that type of thing. But, irregardless, it all comes back to student safety. And we've just been blessed because I have seen vehicles blow around school buses, I think, as we all have. And, unfortunately, it seems like, as the sheriff said, with people on their cell phones and just, reckless and careless driving, that it's not a matter of if, but when that we have a situation with an accident with one of our school buses.
Yeah, I would be interested to see what happened with the city, how that was. Yeah, how that was, where are they at in their process? I believe they would have to use some kind of an outside agency to push that through and to.
Yeah, third-party vendor, correct.
Yeah, a third-party vendor. So I'd be interested to see what they do. And then I don't know that you could, I think if you take it up and maybe Administrator Suggs can help me, if the county were to take that up and say, hey, we want flashing, enforcement in school zones for cameras. If we were to take that up, and I'm just throwing this out there, you can't just pick an area. It has to be like throughout the whole county, or could it be just one, or do we even know the answer to that?
I don't know right off the top of my head, but we can certainly look into that. That's an easy question for an answer to.
Yeah, because, it's one thing to put it out on Kelly Smith, out in QI Roberts. It's another thing to put it at Kelly Smith when Kelly Smith's school zone's not even in the right spot. So how are you going to make people stop in the school zone when it's not even in the right area. And that's not a reflection of anybody. I'm just saying it because that's the truth. So the truth is, when you go out to Kelly Smith, and you know it, you take your grandkids out there, I've seen you out there myself, it's just not in the right area.
My place.
It's not in the right place. So it would be hard to enforce something on that state road whenever it's not even in the right area.
One of the things, though, we are looking at, and probably will happen, is that we will move the parent pickup and drop-off down to the next, to Kelly Smith Road, and then on to Round Lake Road will just be buses. So we're gonna reverse it. So instead of them, since the DOT's refused to move the school zone, we'll just put the parent pickup and drop-off in the school zone that's currently there, and with the property that we've acquired, we'll be able to do, a lot of staging on site of vehicles.
I gotcha. Okay. Mr. Coates?
Yeah, to follow up with talking about QI Roberts, I think everybody will agree that QI Roberts is our diamond school as far as the curriculum, as far as the product, the teachers, the staff, our principal who is here as well. I don't think anybody can argue that point. But the thing we need to think about is it's not the building. It's not brick and mortar that makes that school great. It's the curriculum, it's the staff, it's the students. We have 2, and I believe 3, vacant middle schools. We have Price Middle School, which is vacant, that could accommodate QI Roberts students. We have Jenkins School, which is vacant, which could accommodate QI Roberts students. And I believe we have CL Overturf School as well. They may not be up to par, but I believe between now and August the 11th, they could do it. And I would volunteer to go paint some rooms to manage that risk, that we're not putting our students at risk. We're not putting our faculty at risk. We're not putting those extra school buses at risk out there going to and from QI Roberts. Bring it back into town. Bring it back to Interlock into Price. Bring it back to Jenkins in Palatka. Bring it back to CL in Palatka. And again, too, the infrastructure's there as far as the streets, as far as the roads, as far as emergency services. All of that is already in place. And again, they have just been, shuttered for, less than 2 years, a year and a half, whatever it's been. But I think very quickly they could be brought up. We're not changing the curriculum, we're just changing the structure. And as far as the name, I know that there's some attachment to the name. Bring the name with the students. Change Price Middle to QI Roberts. Change Jenkins to QI Roberts. Whatever we need to do, but again, shutter that school out there on 100 until the traffic issues have been resolved, whether it's 5 years or 10 years. But again, risk management, reduce that risk, and it's available. It's out there that we can do that.
Okay, thank you for your input. Mr. Theobald?
Oh, I've got something to say about that, but
I figured you might.
I'll start by saying that if we did close the school, part of the donation was that the Roberts family would take over ownership of that donation, so it wouldn't be quite as simple as that. And honestly, I think you bring up something else, which is, so I know the history of that school because I was one of the first teachers out there when they first opened it, and Quint Roberts is the oldest of their sons. He's a very close friend of mine, so I've been out there my whole life, pretty much literally. That school was built because we thought we were going to see an expansion of Keystone. This was 25 years ago, and then the 2003 recession hit, and then the 2008 recession hit, and got to the point where we needed to do something in order to maintain a school out there that was thriving, and it is a school that is thriving, and the infrastructure itself is. It'd be difficult to make that switch. Not saying that it's closed. We're here to spitball great ideas and come up with what works best. In the meantime, something that has been brought up by folks that I've also spoken with is to widen our school zone, especially in the westbound, because there is a hill coming out of Flora Home. You dip down a little bit and then come up a hill, and if you're at the top of that hill coming pretty quickly, you might not realize that you're going to have to slam on brakes because you're in a school zone. So if we could move that a few hundred yards down the road, that might help. lengthening our eastbound, I said westbound, it's actually eastbound range where the hill is, and lengthening our eastbound turn lane, so on the right-hand side of the road, could also be helpful. And I don't know if that's something that we can do in a short term as well, because what we have found is, and the same thing will happen if you have a turn lane at Barden Road, is you create a tunnel of death there where you have people in the right turn lane and then people in the left turn lane, but you can't see who's coming eastbound from Flora Home that's going to clip you if you try to turn left or turn right. So
Actually, that is what we see coming out of Barden
Yeah.
Road, and if you turn left, and so the discussion with DOT, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the discussion with DOT is to lengthen that and make that a clearer visibility.
yes, yeah, and that's something similar that we need to do, is kind of lengthen that eastbound turn lane just so we can get more and more people off of the road. But we have fixed that in the afternoons, and in the mornings our families they're pretty with it, and so they know how to stagger. So we don't have huge problems, and in the afternoon we get out pretty safely. But yeah, widening that school zone just so that people can get down, slower speeds more quickly is just a matter of, I'm sure that's more than this, but it seems like just running some wire and digging that thing up and moving it. So if we're able to do something along those lines, I think it could be helpful right there at the school. And I will also piggyback off of what people were saying as far as the enforcement, because having been driving up and down that road, it has been ever present and very useful, and we appreciate the deputies that are running up and down, and also Officer Vega was right out there at parent pickup yesterday afternoon, and so personal, having somebody right there in the vehicle at that time of day is hugely helpful to get everybody slowed down and doing what they need to do.
What is your take on the red light, or not really red, what are they called, school zone cameras, the flashing?
Yes, so I was afraid to say it out loud for years, but since somebody else said it out loud, I'll jump on that bandwagon. I know I want to say it's Flagler County, it's one of the counties close by, they have them. And one of the ways that they have softened the blows to the community as far as having the camera enforcement is that the county and the school district split the proceeds, whatever those might be, and so it's kind of like, well, you're helping kids as you're blowing through the school zone and getting your ticket. At least some of your funds are going to help some of our students in whatever way possible. Not saying that I'm looking for a generator of funds, but as soon as I heard that they were doing something along those lines and people were respecting the school zones better in those communities, I thought, well, that's a positive thing. I'm not a big fan of red light cameras myself.
Yeah, me either. But,
so-
and I think Chair Leary had given that to us, I think, about, there's actually some specific statutes that says how that has to be dealt with. Miss Leary, Miss Leary, you're Mr. Leary. Miss Ryan?
I really appreciate the 3 E's, and the first one is the education, and do we offer driver's education at the high schools?
We do. In the summer, in fact, we just approved yesterday, there'll be several classes throughout the summer at Palatka High School, and I believe Crescent City too.
And just in the summer, but not during the regular school year?
They do have some in the regular school year, but the emphasis is on the summer program because it's a pretty intensive program.
Mm-hmm. It's important because a lot of people don't act like they know how to drive. And they don't follow the rules, and I'm old, so I
Same when I'm picking up my granddaughter at Palatka High School, junior, senior high school, and the seniors leaving to get out the parking lot, I'm thinking, I wonder if those guys took driver's ed. So,
Well, I appreciated driver's ed, and I think it's important, and I think it should be maybe in a requirement, because it's somebody's life, and some people get out there and they just don't know the rules or what to follow or what lane to pull in when they pull out, and it's important.
all our classes are generally full in the summertime. During the school year, it's a little more difficult. And anyway, but the board has approved that Tuesday at our meeting.
Good.
Sheriff DeLoach?
Please don't anyone throw anything at me for saying this.
Not allowed to.
and
I forgot to give the rules, but we're not allowed to throw anything. We have to be civil and have decorum.
My comments are not intended to necessarily take the shine off anything that anyone has said previously, but I think it's worth mentioning that we've spent a significant amount of time talking about the school zone, but in reality, what the data suggests is that we have very few incidents in that school zone itself. I think where we really need to focus our efforts specifically, at least early on, is that area between Barden Road and Roberts Lane. And since it was brought up in conversation, I want to take a moment just to offer my position on school zone speed enforcement cameras. You heard it here first. I'm adamantly opposed to them. They are red light cameras in another form, and I am never going to be in favor of them. I don't think there is any substitute for quality in-person enforcement by a law enforcement officer. The fact of the matter is they've put these cameras up in other areas and in other states, and particularly here in Florida, it sparked some considerable debate regarding their evidence and implications for individual rights. For those of you who are unfamiliar with how these work, you contract with a third-party vendor who manages the issuance of a notice of appearance in lieu of a uniform traffic citation, or a ticket as we all affectionately refer to them. These notice of traffic violations actually take away your rights, and by doing so, it creates an inducement to pay this notice of violation at a reduced rate, substantially reduced from the uniform traffic citation. So and the problem that I have with it is you have a third-party vendor who is getting rich, dipping into citizens' pockets, whereas with traffic enforcement and uniform traffic citations, there's some statutory language that actually spells out where that money goes, but there is a substantial portion of these funds that go right back into the pockets of the vendor who actually manages this. There is a substantial argument to be made with regard to due process. Not only does it burden the drivers financially, but as I alluded to earlier, there's an inducement to pay for the notice of violation, and thereby the driver waives their right to due process in exchange for a reduced fine and a possibility of points added to their license if a UTC is actually, as opposed to a UTC being issued, rather. There's no mechanism for them to contest that citation like there is, or that notice of violation, rather, like there is a true uniform traffic citation. I could go on for hours about this, but those are just a few of the key highlights why I will personally never be in favor of any type of camera enforcement in school zones, or in anywhere in that matter.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Suggs.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. In response to your question earlier about the school zones, according to the FDOT website, no, you're not required to put them in all zones. It will be up to municipality or county to make that decision, which ones they want to. But I will also verify that through the county attorney.
Okay.
And if I can, while I have a second, Mr. Coates, we'll get that information that you've requested as far as the accidents and the types, and we will forward that out to the committee. I believe we already have some access to some of that information as well, so I'll try to get that out in the next day or two to all committee members.
So it looks like we've talked about several items here. At our next meeting, we definitely need to have some data. You had mentioned that Captain Stevens will reach out to him and see, he's from the Florida Highway Patrol, make sure he can attend our next meeting along with some staff from DOT, and I think that will be most helpful. We do have some citizens that are here that want to speak. Yes. Yes.
Give a attaboy. One of the things that the reason that the Highway Patrol had, immediately, as we were coming back from our Tallahassee trip, the sheriff contacted his friend and longtime friend of mine, Dave Kernan, the Director of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, and he committed to the sheriff that things would be done. And believe me, the next day, they were done. So thank you, Sheriff, for reaching out to him and getting that ball rolling.
Thank you. Mr. Coates?
To kind of follow what's on the agenda there, I'm a bad person bringing handouts all the time, but I've
It's
got some,
okay.
got
No,
some
we're-
more
we're
handouts.
glad.
Talks about enhancements down there for that we can do immediately at little or no cost. And there's an old thing, it dates back to the 50s. It's called
It looks like it's from the 50s.
it's called the Burma Shave road signs, and basically they are still used in western states today. The only place in Florida that I know that they are for sure on the Florida Turnpike between Fort Pierce and Yeehaw Junction. But basically, it's a series of signs that are spaced apart that you read, and there's safety messages on them. And so I just kind of like threw this together. But here's some thoughts. Is basically we have our signs. The first sign reads high crash area, no need for speed, phone down, buckle up, arrive alive.
Yeah.
You know, and we space those out. We can put those out there on the 100, and it catches the driver's attention. And those are, as far as cost, minimal costs to do and to put out there. And if FDOT won't put them on the shoulders, I'm sure we could talk to some of the landowners out there that would space them apart. But you know, it's not a fix-all. But again, it's an added thing out there to get drivers' attention to again key things that are causing some crashes out there. So.
Have you seen FDOT do this? I haven't seen this in other areas of Florida.
Only ones I've seen is on the Turnpike between
yeah.
Fort Pierce
You said
and
that.
the Kissimmee exit.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to comment before we take some public comment? All right. Do we have some cards? First, let me say thank you to the citizens who showed up today to speak. We have been mostly discussing Highway 100, but this committee will be getting into, and this is the part of this is the hard part, right, is we're going to have long discussions. We are. And so I hate to tell you that because I'm the first one who likes to have a quick meeting and get things done and that kind of thing. So, but we are going to have some longer meetings than, not everything's going to be 30 minutes or an hour, and especially with this one being our first one. So first, I'll hear from David Wade. If you'll come up to the podium, Mr. Wade, and state your name and ask for the record. And we are going to try to keep these comments to three to 5 minutes at most. But there's no trap door, I promise you,
Okay,
unless you go over 5 minutes. Then there's a trap door.
okay.
Yes, sir, you can just start speaking.
Is this on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm David Wade. I've lived in Palatka all 77 years of my life. The last 4 years, we've moved to Flora Home. My family of driving capabilities to and from Palatka to Flora Home is 4 people, and we transfer and go to work and take care of grandchildren and schools and so forth. We travel the road a lot. I'm a victim of a Roberts Ranch incident some 2 years ago. Not personally. My younger son was driving his vehicle, 5 o'clock in the morning. An incident occurred right at Roberts Road, which left a little bad taste in my mouth towards the highway patrol. And in losing Troop F, I think it was, that we had here in Putnam County for years, we lost a valuable asset to patrol state roads. In that incident that occurred at 5 o'clock in the morning, it took the sheriff's office within 5 minutes to have a sheriff's deputy out there to the scene of the accident. It took the highway patrol 1 hour and 10 minutes, documented, to get from where he was at in St. Augustine on Highway 16 to the scene of the accident. The accident didn't cause any physical damage. It caused some mental damage and some financial damage to both parties. But in talking with the Highway Patrol and to the Sheriff's Department, I found that the Highway Patrol's only excuse was we didn't have enough people. Well, you used to have enough people when this post Jimmy Johns and the other deputies, the other highway patrol people were stationed here in Putnam County. Now the state road, which is supposed to be patrolled by the troopers, is not patrolled. Not until maybe recently when numerous accidents started happening. And so they told me they were shorthanded. Sorry about your luck, you know, and not much we can do about it. We work in league with the sheriff's department. So we have a vested interest, I think, here from the Highway Patrol to do their jobs, whether it remains that they have to hire more people to do their jobs and not rely on the sheriff's department, which they want to pawn off to your deputies, which do a good job. So I feel like there's a lot of things out there that are not the road's fault. They come from irritated drivers and impatient drivers that follow that road. The irritated drivers are the ones that are behind a school bus or a log truck or a cement truck. Can't get around. They do stupid things. They'll pull out and they think that their little 4-cylinder turbocharged cars can get up to 80 or 90 miles an hour, which they do. But the oncoming traffic is always seems to be the one that has to go off the side of the road and hit a tree. And I'm sorry about Miss Ryan's incident. I knew your family well. And another problem that has to be thought about, and living on one of the only bypass roads that there is to use when there's a situation like occurred with the sand truck. Highway 100 was totally blocked. There's no way to get around that other than going 315, turning around in the middle of the road, but you can't hardly turn around because it's not wide enough. Gator even says he gets stuck. The only conclusion is to come down Coral Farms Road and then come out, hopefully, beyond the wreck on Roberts Ranch Road, or it's called something else.
Bellamy.
Bellamy Road, or to go straight through Tinsley dirt roads and come out there by the school. If this program to widen the road needs to be done, the irritated drivers might not exist, but still there's a need for people to go fast in today's world. And me, owners of race cars and driving fast for years, understand that need, but it has to be contained somehow by the drivers and qualified. But anyhow, getting back to the bypass on Coral Farms Road, these bypasses need to be fixed prior to any road construction to be of any magnitude before you jump into it. Coral Farms Road is not capable of handling the traffic that would be and is coming down there right now. The road's not wide enough. We've talked about this before in a mining operation that was proposed there on Coral Farms Road. The road is not substantially enough to hold the weight of heavy dump trucks or semi trucks, and the road is a country road. It's only 8 foot 3 inches wide from the outside line to the middle line. My truck, a dually, is 8 foot. Now there's only 3 inches to negotiate in between being in the center of the road. That's 1.5 inches on each side. An oncoming truck will take your mirror off or put you in the dirt. So these bypass roads need to be worked on prior to getting into a major construction, so that people can go on.
Mr. Wade, I've given you about 5 minutes. Are you about to wrap it up?
Yeah, just about to wrap it up. Even this morning, coming here, Ms. Wilkinson, I took a right, had to go to my doctor at 11:30 this morning. Went to Keystone. First near miss happened at 3:15 in Grandin. Guy pulled out in the road, he just froze there. And, I had to come to almost a stop. Coming back, coming up the hill to Grandin, and the caution light there that you can't see until you get to the top of the hill. That double line there by the sand pit didn't pay any attention. The Cadillac that was going behind me, I was going 60. He was going 80, 90, or even 100. Come around all those double lines and passed 3 cars in front of me before he come to the top of the hill in Grandin. And if I'd have had a ticket book with me, I guess, that would have been one of the ones. The other one was there. But near misses take place every day out there. My wife is scared to death, carrying our grandchildren. She comes home with terrible stories of near misses that happen, with people running her off the road on a daily instance. Mr. Theobald, I think, has got a plan there to take care of his school exit, if you will, going to the east, to give him some more space for them trucks and cars that the young people drive and mothers and fathers use as a pickup to get out on Highway 100 a little more proficiently than just getting out in front of the people that run through that school zone.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing we can all agree on is that every person who, especially if they grew up in this county, has a story about State Road 100. They either know of somebody who passed away, they know of a family that's been hurt, they know of a near miss that they probably have had or one of their close family members have had. And that's why we're here today. That's one of the reasons why we're here today. Next on discussion of State Road 100 safety is Marilyn, and I can never say your last name, but I'll let you say it when you get to the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Mary Lynn P. Antonita. I've been a resident of Putnam County in Flora Home for most of my life. And I just want to mention that as you all, as a committee, begin to study and develop recommendations for improved safety of 100, I ask that you particularly take into consideration the community of Flora Home. I know as you've looked at this stretch of road between St. John's Water Management to the Clay County line, that's your area of study. But we're the only town within the study area that is bisected by State Road 100. That means that the highway literally separates or divides our town. Part of our residents are on one side of the road and part are on the other. So for our residents to enter and exit off of 100, every time we leave home, we've got to safely get onto 100 for work, for school, for shopping, recreation, to go to the post office, for everything that we have to do. Although the speed limit is 45 miles per hour through Flora Home, we know that there are many, many violations for speeding. Our community has 3 feeder roads for the town. Going eastward is Holloway Road at QI Roberts, and that's very dangerous in the morning and in the evenings when school takes in and lets out. Then we have Coral Farms Road at the intersection of 100. And there is a flashing light there. However, it has become increasingly difficult to get out onto the road, particularly at times of high traffic when workers are going to work and coming back home. And lastly, there's the intersection of 100 and 315. And as all of you all know, that is extremely dangerous due to visibility issues. So those are the ways in which we are able to move from our community to get out on 100, and those create quite a number of problems for our community. Over the years, I've personally known several people who've lost their lives on this highway, and I've also known innocent victims who've been involved in terrible crashes that have led to lifelong disability of pain and suffering. We in Flora Home also have vital fire and rescue services that serve all of West Putnam, and those are essential public services, and those folks need to be able to safely move along State Road 100. It's not unusual for the Flora Home ballpark to be used as a landing pad for emergency services that are coming to assist people that have been hurt severely and need to be moved to regional hospitals. I'm a retired teacher of 38 years, and during that 38-year period, I drove State Road 100 every morning, every evening, to various places that I taught within the county. So the road has not changed, but we know that drivers have changed. There appears to be a disregard for law, and there is more distraction with the use of cell phones, more aggression, speeding, passing, and risk-taking. I'm not sure what the answer is for that, but it's certainly something that could and should be controlled through ticketing and through education. Our area is experiencing some growth, and State Road 100 continues to get much busier with commercial traffic because of the growth in our region. So as big trucks are moving things from up north, from Lake City, all the way to the coast, things come through Flora Home. Heavy equipment comes through Flora Home. We have logging that comes through Flora Home. We have Vulcan Materials that is located just close to us. And in closing, I just want to say that I thank you all for taking serious consideration of this issue. I also want to thank law enforcement specifically for their increased presence. It really made a difference. We felt heard in the community. And I just look forward to what this group comes up with as a plan for greater safety in our community. And thank you again.
Thank you. These cards weren't in any order, so if you were here first and you didn't get to go first, I apologize. It's not marked that way. Yvette Reyes.
Yvette Reyes, P.O. Box 253, Boswick. I just want to say thank you. I don't live on that side. I personally do not drive 100. I go 20 and go all the way around. Back in the 90s when I lived here, I used to drive 100 to go to church at Marinette. And yeah, I know you from there. We'll talk later. But I'm overwhelmed and in a happy way that you guys came together, and I appreciate you volunteering because it is a really bad road. I personally live on 19th, so I'm gonna wait till that comes up. But like I said, I don't drive 100 at all. I will go around whatever I have to go around so that I don't go on that road. So this is a huge undertaking for our county and in a positive way. It's unfortunate that what happened to Jessica, for people to listen because it has been out there, like I said, from the 90s, but it's a step forward. So thank you all for volunteering to do this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Robertson, you've been very patient, and I appreciate it.
Let's see. My name's Lynn Robertson. I live at 410 South 9th Street, and I'm going to invite you all to please think about another state road. My problem state road is State Road 20. It's the 3-mile section that's 2 lanes on state, goes around Crill, down South 9th. At that corner, a woman burned alive in a car wreck at my doorstep. At that corner, people have accidents on a daily basis. I've been working on this problem for 5 years, ever since I moved here. I spoke to the lovely Madam Chairperson and Representative Payne, spoken to Mr. Deloach in the grocery store. I called the Highway Patrol, but nobody ever answered. And I even wrote Governor DeSantis and have several times written Mr. Perdue. when I asked the DOT to do a traffic survey on that stretch in 2017, they said sure. And it turned out that at that time, 5 years ago, there were 10,000 vehicles on that stretch of road in a historic neighborhood that is residential, and really it's very often traveled now by pedestrians because they're poor, they can't afford cars, and they walk along. They're in danger. My front yard is littered with car parts. I saw a biker get taken out just 2 weeks ago. I asked the city for some statistics. What I was able to get was reported accidents from 2019 to 2022. And mind, this takes account of the COVID, everybody stayed home. There were almost 400 accidents, and that's 100 accidents per year that were reported. That doesn't mean the unreported ones. And in Florida, when people have accidents, the date, this is dated, but it's like a minor accident is $6,000. Well, I saw a family of Hispanic folks get smacked by a pickup truck. That was their only vehicle to get to work, to school, and to the grocery store. So I'm begging you all to consider this problem. I asked the DOT to come and sit on my front porch. They saw the 5 trucks every 5 minutes or more. I think the truck ordinance from 2003 that Palatka made should be enforced. It said no through trucks. Nobody's interested in enforcing this. It wouldn't be that hard. You just sit there, grab a truck. They're jostling with school buses, tanker trucks that could overturn and inflame our neighborhood with noxious and toxic and flammable stuff. Oh gosh, am I at 3 minutes or 5? Sorry.
I'll give you a little bit more time.
Okay, so when I moved here, I got a petition up, and since it was just me, I got kind of tired of hearing people discuss how much they hated that road. I got 300 signatures and submitted that petition to the city and the county. Well, nothing's happened, as you know, except signage that doesn't seem to be effective. Now, since our recent hurricanes, there are convoys of dump trucks, vehicles of every description. When you have an accident, and I've been a first responder, because I live right there, I was an RN. I call 911, I run out, I try to help the person who got squashed. They're in shock, and when rescue and police come at night, there is a complete jam of insanity. It is so dangerous. The trucks are trying to get by, the rescue is trying to come in. We don't have shoulders because they're houses. My personal retaining wall has a huge sign that says "slow please" to cover up a large hole someone made, and I didn't feel like fixing it because I'm sick of construction. So that's why I'm here today. I am so sorry for your loss, Ms. Ryan. I'm so sorry. And I'm glad that we have some truck experts here, because maybe you can do something about it. The last time I spoke to the DOT, their head person of the delegation said that the DOT would never, ever interfere with a municipality enforcing an ordinance on a state road. So, thank you for your patience. I invite you to think about it. And Mr. Theobald, I knew a little girl, Mr. Miller's daughter, that was in a school bus that in our neighborhood on that road that got squashed by a truck. So, y'all have a good weekend, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson. So, that is an area that we've all are familiar with. We did get the truck, what is it called? I forget what it's called. I've already forgot. Truck route. Thank you. We got the truck route, and I did think it was helping, and it did help, it seemed like, but then now I go down that road on a regular basis, and we have just as many as we used to have. So that is an area that I think that we should look at as well. I don't disagree with you. And it's difficult because it's a state road in a city, and we've all, from law enforcement, we've had meetings about it before, and I think it's just challenging. And the other problem is, just like you have a little bit on 100, is when you pull somebody over, where do you pull them over at? So there's that part. So, but I do think that DOT has, that they had mentioned that they had some solutions on a couple of these items, and we will have them come forward at one of our next meetings and share what they have or what they are already working on. And I think they have worked with the city on something down in that area. Not from an enforcement standpoint, but from maybe changing that road. I don't really know specifics, but
Short Crill, but that will just increase the traffic.
yeah, I think that's something that, and that is it's just a challenge for that area right there. So before we close, I want us to go down the podium and speak, and I'll speak last, and then the next meeting date and time, we can discuss that as well. I don't know if we want to set a specific time of the month every month, or I feel like we need to meet as necessary, but we'll just go down. And Chief Back, I'll start with you on the other end, since I started on the other end, and if you'll just have any comments you have about today, and then what you want to see in the future, and if you have any, we talked about we're going to need some data. We'll have Captain Stevens come, we'll have FDOT come, and we'll continue this conversation on 100 and other areas. And as we go forward, I think that each of us should have a specific item like that we want to work on. I think that's just my thought, but I'll start with you.
Thank you. I just want to say, when you said earlier that the enforcement had slowed down the auto accidents on 100, we have seen that. Unfortunately, when you spend a lot of your efforts on the few officers we have between FHP and the sheriff's office, that could be, they're unmarked cars. I know what he's using out there, but we've seen an upkick on 19 and City of Palatka accidents, pretty severe ones here in the last couple of days. Over the last week, we've had 6 between 19 and St. John's Avenue. So we're seeing upkicks in other areas, so there's a lot of roads that we need to look at as a committee, not 100. 100 has its specific issues that we need to concentrate on first, in my opinion, but we don't need to let the rest of the county disappear either. Our children and families ride all the roads.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards?
Very interesting today to learn some of these facts, but, I think my interest really lays in what's electronically available.
Okay.
Maybe stuff we don't know about. I know we talked about the cameras and stuff, which I sort of like cameras because my husband was in that business, and I learned a whole lot from that, but I don't know what else might be out there, so I thought I'd take that home as a go forward, okay?
Yeah, and like I said, we'll get some data, some additional data. The sheriff shared some data with us today, so did Brett Coates, and I appreciate that. And we'll get that data out electronically and then see what we can send out. And we'll have somebody on staff like Julianne or Administrator Suggs, I think. Are you allowed to send out data, or just somebody from staff? So we would have it go through Julianne, and she could send out anything. So we'll see what we can get together and get sent out. Principal
Madam-
Theobald?
Yes, so I also learned quite a bit today. For moving forward, first off, I'm going to talk with the folks at other schools and see what they've noticed, not just in their school zones, but also just kind of in their ride. I know driving 17 south to Crescent City for a few years, there's
That's
some
an area of
scary
concern,
spots
yeah.
in there too. So I'll try and get some information as far as that goes. And I as far as future meetings, I think we need to meet certainly as needed, but if part of what we need to do is tap the brakes on DOT's plan to resurface the road and hopefully get some re-engineering involved, I'm ready to meet whenever and as often as necessary so that we can get as much information gathered quickly, so that we can see something moving forward quickly.
Thank you. Mr. Coates?
I just want to thank the public for coming and your input, the opportunity to serve on the committee. I think there's been some good discussion, a good start, and a good direction to move forward. And just to let everybody know, it's not a sheriff's office problem, it's not an FHP problem, it's not EMS problem, it's a community problem. And we have to work together as a community as a whole, all the different parts, and move forward and establish the goals and objectives. And it's going to take some time. There's not a magic fix to it, but I think if we work together and unite, then we'll be able to do that. So thank you.
Mr. Leary?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I'd like to thank you and your colleagues on the commission for voting and your administrative staff for moving this task force forward and allowing us to serve on it, and certainly for the community members that are serving, for the public that showed up today. I've heard a lot of good comments and have some things that that really resonated with me. What I'd like to work on is with Principal Theobald and seeing if we can be successful in extending that school zone east and west a couple hundred yards, and maybe looking at the size of the yellow flashing signage and just the signage in general. The speed limit signs, the striping, and that type of things. Those are things that we can do right now that I think that could help. But understand, we've been pushed back before by DOT on a lot of these things. Hopefully they'll be a little more resident to work with us on that. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to serve, and you know, it's something I think that's going to be very, very fruitful.
Thank you. I want to go down to Mr. Suggs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things that I heard here today was with the step up in enforcement on both the state as well as the county side, that we've had a reduction in issues out there as far as vehicular accidents. I think that speaks volumes of being able to, one of the things that we can actually control here at the county level. So what I'd like to see is, because of that, maybe reach out to DOT, because we're fairly confident we have right-of-way there. And one of the things as county administrator I'd like to see is for our public safety folks to be able to do their job in a safe manner, as well as our sheriff's office and FHP. So maybe one of the things that we might be able to get them to agree to is, let's look at some areas where we might be able to add some widening of the roads there, particularly to be able to pull folks over and do the things that we need to do if that's being successful. So maybe that's some of the things that we need to reach out to DOT about. You know, of course, we know their 5-year and 10-year plan is what it is, and it's going to be very difficult to move forward with a major project. However, I think with the focus that our governor's office has put on public safety in the last couple of years, I think maybe we can get some legs there and be able to get some movement to be able to put some areas out there for our folks to be able to do their job and do their job in a safe manner. And at the same time, one of our maybe one of those unintended consequences will be able to continue the trend of slowing vehicles down and slowing some of those vehicular accidents down. That would be what I'd hope for.
Thank you. Mr. Killebrew.
Well, I just want to say again, like I said, I appreciate the LEOs, the law enforcement officers, their determination to work with, getting the work done they have. I just want to give a shout out to Chief Blunt out there. I've known him since he was a young man, and he lives out in Barden where we live, out past in Bannerville. And he started the drive a while back on his own, stopping people and giving them warnings and stuff like that. Matter of fact, he got on to me the other day. He come up behind me and he told me, he says, "What happened to 64 miles an hour, Mr. Killebrew?" And I was like, well, I felt like, you're now doing 42. I was like, well, I felt like if I was going to be if I was going to get y'all out here doing things, I might ought to do what I'm supposed to be doing.
That was on Barden Road, to be clear, right?
Yeah, right. That's what I was saying. That was on Barden Road. And, some of the enforcement that the sheriff's office has done on Barden Road, we still have the idiots that are, and I call them idiots because they're idiots, doing 90 miles an hour down the road, But when you get to the end of Barden Road right there, where we talked about a while ago with where Barden Road comes into 100, that turning lane, I mean, I've watched an accident there one day and just was mortified. With a lot of times what happens is the traffic gets backed up behind the slower traffic. And when I say slower traffic, I'm talking about people that are doing the speed limit, and then the others behind them are trying to fly. And so they come in that turn off there on Barden Road, and there might be 10, 15 cars coming in there. And the person that's at the stop sign doesn't see the person that's coming past the cars, and they pull out in front of them. So that's, you have that. But, again, like I said, I just think that the enforcement right now, I'm not saying that that's the answer, but it is right now. But I think it's slowing people down and helping people understand that you really can't be doing what you're doing. I mean, you start off there at the airport going to Barden Road, and next thing you know, you look back behind you and there's 2 or 3 cars right up on your bumper. I mean, they're trying to pass you in them double lines and everything like that. So I think there's been a lot of good communication today. I think that the things that everybody has said, is we can take that and move forward with things. But again, I think that enforcement has done its job, and I think we just need to go from there. Thank you.
Ms. Ryan?
Since Jessica's accident, our family life has, of course, changed. This committee, this task force to be formed, we really, I can't say, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate the law enforcement being out there. Every day is a challenge, still going down 100 to even want to get on that road. But I know that there's something good going to come out of this. We're going to figure this out. And I don't have any experience with any of this in government, and so I feel like my role will only be just to pray and listen and contribute whatever I can, whatever the Lord puts in front of me. And again, our family is just so grateful. The community has really been so kind, and it has been incredible to hear, sadly, all of the stories that have come out from Highway 100 and other parts of our community. And we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, your role is very important, so we're glad you're here. Sheriff DeLoach?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take an opportunity to extend a huge debt of gratitude to those of you who are in the audience who took the time out of your day to come here today, and to the community members or the committee members who have agreed to serve on this particular committee with us. It's something of significant importance. We are committed to continuing our efforts with the Highway Patrol and with the county and other enforcement entities to make not only 100 but all of the roads in the county as safe as possible. But here's the unfortunate reality. People anymore, and I'm speaking in generalities here, not everyone, are just downright flippant about the safety of other drivers on the highway, and that's incredibly frustrating. You just can't fix stupid. But what I can assure you is that if these fools continue to play stupid games, they're going to continue to win stupid prizes. You know, there's been far too many lives that are lost on this particular stretch of road. The recent tragedy with Dave and Marlene's daughter really hit close to home for me. My heart continues to go out to them. But I want to just extend another debt of gratitude to Dave and Marlene, who have gone and purchased out of their pocket 2 speed measuring trailers that they are donating to the sheriff's office for our use, in particular on State Road 100. Dave actually found them, I believe, at an estate sale and purchased them for our use. They're being refurbished at this time, and you'll see them in service on 100 in the very near future. But again, I stand committed to working together with everyone here to find good, common, viable solutions to what we've all identified as a problem here. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just want to say again, thank you for your willingness to serve on this committee, and thank you for the citizens that are here in the audience today. Like I said, everybody's got a story, and I imagine that we could fill this room up with people who could share their near accidents or accidents in this community. You know, when we thought about this and we took on this task force at the board and we talked about it, I didn't know what we were going to do other than we were going to keep moving the ball forward. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to move the ball forward to improve the roads in Putnam County, whether we have to, obviously we're going to have conversations with DOT, Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, the school board, and just all of the stakeholders to see what we can do. Some of them are going to be short-term goals and short-term things that we could do pretty quickly, like signage and things that were mentioned here today, and other ones are going to be long planning, like 4-laning or getting some funding from the state level. So that'll be stuff that we'll have to be reaching out to our legislators and a future plan of what we can do on some of the state roads. But again, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Sarah, for being here from the newspaper once again. I know you get spread thin, and awareness is huge. And we, like I said when we started, that's one of the things we've already got, and you've been a help with that, so thank you. And with that, there's no anything else to come before, this meeting's adjourned.